Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At HT, we pray for good health and safety of one and all. What is coding? Simply put, coding is the method of communicating with a computer in the language that it understands. We write instructions for the computer in that language for it to perform specific and complex tasks. Think of anything: making a website, an app, a video game, designing spaces, objects, and much more. And bang, you can bring it to life digitally with a hefty dose of creativity. How fascinating could that be? Learning to code allows us to create things as we want and as we think of. Recent research puts coding at the forefront of future careers, not only in technology, but across all sectors. So the agenda for this discussion today is very simple. With our esteemed panelists here today, we are going to understand the importance of coding and why every child today should learn to code. Our panelists will also debunk certain myths around coding, such as that coding is only for a few students who are academically ahead, or for those who want to be software engineers, or coding can be hard and intimidating and is only for the students at high school level or above. Through this live session, it is HT's attempt to get all answers for our stakeholders and principals, students, and parents. Welcome to this session, and do keep sending in your questions. We will attempt to answer as many during the session. Jumping right to the discussion, let me begin by introducing our impressive panel of speakers today. Mr. Sahil Sheth, CEO and founder, Lido Learning. He's a qualified actuary from Duke University. Sahil's foray into the Indian edtech industry over the course of the past decade has seen him deploy his skills to become one of the biggest success stories in this rapidly growing sector. In 2019, Sahil established Lido Learning, a small group tuitions platform that ensured success for students through a combination of peer learning and personalized attention from tutors. As the CEO and founder of Lido Learning, Sahil is focused on enhancing Lido's inherent ability to continually present a personalized learning experience to students across the spectrum. Having grown the business at an exponential rate in India, Middle East, US, and Canada, Sahil will soon launch Lido Learning classes in Australia, New Zealand, and Southeast. A graduate in math and economics from Duke University, USA, and a chartered financial analyst, Sahil is also an associate of the Society of Actuaries. Welcome, Sahil.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hi.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. Ms. Supriti Chauhan, Principal DPS, Gautam Budh Nagar, Noida. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank
Supriti
you so
ma'am's
much.
passion for education leads to an innovative and dynamic approach towards teaching learning process. With her 22 years of teaching experience, she designs and facilitates teacher training modules. She has advanced validations for teachers and leadership trainings from IECS, British Council, NPTEL, IIT Madras, from Institute of Psychotherapy and Management Sciences, and Global Career Counseling certification from UCLA. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure is all mine.
Dr. Nicholas Correa, Executive Director of New Horizon Group of Schools, Mumbai. He has been serving as an educator and administrator in various capacities in esteemed educational institutions for the last 29 years. Dr. Correa has been appointed several times to the inspection committee of CBSE. He has given academic expertise to publications for school books. He also actively conducts various seminars and workshops across India for students, teachers, and parents. Thank you for joining us, sir, and welcome to the panel. Ms. Surbhi Bhardwaj, TGT Computer Science, Bharati Public School, Rohini, is a qualified MCA, DOE, ACC, ONA level. She has a master's in application software engineering with an experience of 22 years of teaching coding to students. She has also upskilled to teach AI, ML, Python, chatbots, as well to Gen Alpha students. She actively spearheaded the training and transition of teachers from offline to online mode during the pandemic. Thank you, ma'am, for being here today. Mrs. Sima Dubey Pandey is the parent of Aditri Pandey, studying at Air Force Golden Jubilee Institute, Delhi. She is an educator by profession with experience of more than 15 years as lecturer physics. She has been instrumental in preparing students for CBSE examinations as well as various competitive and entrance examinations like NEET and JEE. Thank you all for being here. I would like to start today's discussion by asking my first question to Sahil. Sahil, coding is an extremely popular term that we frequently hear today. Coding classes have taken internet by storm. We also hear that it is one of the most important skills to possess for today's generation. For more clarity to our audience of students who are curious to take it up, and for parents who are yet not certain why, may I request you to decode coding for their better understanding, please? Over to you.
Yeah, sure. I would say that coding has seen a big uptick and a lot of popularity for two reasons primarily. One is that it allows you to develop a very structured way of thinking because in order to code, you're essentially writing a set of instructions where one instruction is linked to the next one. So you start to develop a very logical chain of thought. That's one. And second, more importantly, even math allows you to do that. But the reason that coding has become popular is that while you're developing a logical chain of thought, you're actually also building something in the process. So you end up getting a lot of dopamine hits, and that format of practicing structured thinking is very engaging because you very after writing a few lines of code, you're actually building something, and you can actually see it come to life as you spend more and more time practicing structured thinking. So it becomes a format which not just leads to structured thinking, but it also is a lot of fun because of because you're continuously creating something in the process.
Sure. Yeah, I get that. Thank you so much, Sahil, for those inputs. So, as parents, we are constantly working to keep up with the newest ways to engage our children with the 21st century concepts and learning skills. I think learning to code it really comes on top as I hear and as I understand in discussion with our peers and various other, editorial groups. Coding can be empowering as well, that we know. It gives kids the tools to bring their ideas to life and express themselves and opens a world of options for their future. Thank you so much, Sahil, for your inputs. Coming to you, ma'am, Miss Supriti Chauhan. One of the few good things to happen in 2020 was the introduction of the new education policy. NEP 2020 promotes holistic learning and a shift to fostering the unique capabilities of each student such that students have the ability to choose their learning trajectories and programs now. NEP also lays emphasis on STEM education, one of which is coding. What are your views on that?
Thank you so much, Rupali. I mean, before I start, I think I'm already experiencing internet issues. So, in case I do go offline, I'll be coming back. To begin with, I think programming is the way of life. And considering the scenario that all of us have been in the past 20 odd months, I think most of us, including parents and children, we all have already gotten the taste of how our entire world is totally dependent or revolves around coding. So whether it is applications or websites or everything, buying, selling, or for that matter even your calculator and your microwave, all of that requires coding. The sooner we train our children for it, the sooner we empower our children for it, I think we will be creating a generation of young learners or young adults into the future workforce who will be able to tackle the unforeseen problems of the future if they are equipped suitably. I think when you talked about NEP, it has already given you or armed us educators to actually go beyond what is there in our textbooks or what is laid out in black and white and go beyond that and to get in new age skills like these, it is very important that they become part of the syllabus itself. I think we shouldn't take coding as a separate subject if we talk about school
Yeah.
learning. It should be part of each and every, rather it should be integrated with all of these subjects in some way or the other. So if we are talking about, let's say, English, if that's being taught as a subject, coding can be beautifully integrated along with the integration of computer teacher, bringing in creative writing in the form of set of codes where a child ends up building, let's say, a story or a comic strip with the help of the computer teacher, at the same time learning English as a language. So if you ask me, as an educator, coding is the way to move forward. If we want our children to be prepared for the future, that preparation begins today. So it's a myth that they say that children, when they come in grade 9 or in grade post grade 12, they should be picking up computer science to learn coding and all. Coding should be taught right from nursery and prep. If I may just share a quick anecdote or an instance where I went to a certain school, not here in India, and I saw very young toddlers, age 6, learning coding, but not in front of the screen, because that was their preparatory time, and they were actually doing it on a mat which had certain sensors. So if they took the right sequence of steps on that map, they could actually see a certain car placed in front of them move. So to teach them even alphabets, in order to teach them what is sequential learning, which is part of coding, they were doing it on a floor mat. So kinesthetic learning was at play, digital literacy was at play, focus and organization was at play, sequential learning was at play, and language was at play. So if I solely talk from the purpose of school, especially in Indian education scenario, coding is the way of moving forward, not only in empowering our children, but ensuring that they are at par with the rest of the world. That's how I would put it. I think there are more experts who can add more, let's say, value to what has already been shared. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you. That I think those examples are beautiful, ma'am, because language has always been a mode of communication that has been passed on from generation to generation in the modern world. Robotics and AI coding may be the only new language, of course, one of the new languages spoken that fosters all the necessary skills of communication, creativity, critical thinking, and confidence building. How you so beautifully brought that to the forefront by talking about how an English teacher and a computer teacher can work together and creatively help students put
Yes,
together either a comic strip and the education a broad example that you again gave us, how it's how students are helping learn these beautiful life lessons of creativity and communication. Thank you so
absolutely.
much, ma'am.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much. Yeah.
Yeah, I would
Coming to
I would add to that and say that we've seen a lot of young kids, from 6, 7, 8. They're building blogs, they're building podcasts, on websites and mobile apps, and it's quite amazing, what we're seeing kids do at the moment.
True.
absolutely, yeah. So yeah, we do see and we do read that coding has really no age. It can even start at the preschool level. So I have that question for you, Sahil, and which we would want you to elaborate. It's coming up in a few minutes. Coming to you, Dr. Nicholas Correa, parents whose children are learning to code agree about its endless benefits to kids, including better academic performance, writing skills. As the executive director and principal of an institute, you must be interacting with multiple parents and students on a daily basis. Do you agree with that observation? And if you have certain examples to quote, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you so very much. I'm giving this opportunity. I absolutely agree with you. As per my observation, I would like to divide the parents into three buckets. The way they pursue coding. Parents in bucket one consider coding is fundamental literacy, and they know, and some of them feel coding is engaging children in joyful learning. And parents in bucket two feel children are already hooked to electronic devices with major part of their time, and they feel learning coding is like administering a steroid to a patient who is suffering with ordinary fever. And parents in bucket 3 are not aware of coding, and many of them have no access to proper electronic devices. Let us see some of the benefits of learning coding. Coding is a game of logic. It enables the mind to have a rational outlook. Be it an artist or sports person or a musician for that matter, everyone needs to have a basic competence to make rational decisions, as it is logic that governs our decision making. Coding is for everyone across all ages and all fields of interest. It promotes computational thinking, analytical processing of information, and out of the box approach of real life problems. This is not as complex as it sounds. It may be as simple as planning our daily work or weeding out fake news from real news. The real logic that drives coding makes one understand deeper rather than blindly accept anything. These competencies and skills are essential for efficient learning outcome, and they lead to experiential learning. Let me give you examples. We have a student named Arush Jadhav in grade 2. He is a white hat junior certified game developer. There is a group of students in grade 8 who developed a website as an ICT project. There was another group of students who developed a program for student council election. There is a student in grade 7th who is an ethical hacker. All these students used coding for preparing their projects. If coding is introduced in school syllabus as an integrated subject, it gets different level of importance. Algebra is introduced when children reach a particular level of cognitive development. However, logic is the most fundamental tool, and all of us employ in our life-changing decisions, which is not taught in school when algebra is introduced. If logic could be taught through coding when algebra is introduced, it would be fun to learn. And at the same time, children will dispel fear of learning mathematics. And in the meantime, in the primary classes or in the lower primary classes and pre-primary, children already learn coding, like learning of letters of alphabet, learning of numbers, learning the names of various objects. This is also a type of coding. It may not be a technical coding. So coding need to come at a very early age. And as I said, parents do feel today the importance of coding, and it is very, very important for every parent to understand coding. That's all.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Correa. I love the fact that you've put it in the 3 buckets of knowing it all, being there and not knowing it, and how important it is for every students in every bucket and parents to understand that, there's so much in coding if you have to think logically and rationally, and so many more skills that you brought out. So besides inculcating their love for math and improving writing skills, I think coding also helps a child accept failure. That's one of the skills that I personally feel, because you code, you have bugs, it doesn't work, you unlearn, you learn. So I think that is a very important life lesson, failure. And as parents, we often forget to teach our children how to accept failure. So additionally, when kids learn to code, they quickly discover what it means to be focused and organized and incredibly collaborative also. So thank you so much for your answer and advocating that coding should be inculcated or should be started at a very, very initial level of schooling. Thank you so much, sir. Coming to you, Sahil, since coding is such an important new age skill, And with the well-rounded benefits it adds to a child's personality and academic performance, to me, it ought to be introduced from an early age. Like, we have our members and panelists also talking about it. So, is there any age, according to you, when students should start learning coding, or they are ready to learn coding? And if you could give us some examples, like you were just mentioning about certain students, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah, so coding is just a way to practice logical thinking. So, and that's something you work on, from a very early age, right? The sooner you start practicing on, augmenting your intellect, right, the better off you are. And we have seen that, right, all the way from students, in the first, second standard, going upwards. We have seen a host of very creative outcomes where students in first or second standard. Just yesterday I was in a first and second standard meeting with students, and we saw a few of them had built a travel app and we asked them, why did you build a travel app? And they were that, hey, I've not been able to travel, so I just wanted to build an app so I could share all my past memories and relive those moments. Right? There was another student that had built a COVID tracking app, and we were like, there's so many apps that exist, and they were like, I don't like the user experience of like the Aradhya Setu app, right? So we've seen very interesting things like that at a young age. And then for older students, in the seventh, eighth standard, we've seen a lot of focus where they're building apps that help them study, because these guys are also, very focused on the core school curriculum subjects like math, science, and English. And we've seen people build timetabling apps where they're able to essentially, better timetable and manage their time. Or for English, they've actually built. We saw one where for one school, and now the whole school is using it. Where one girl in that school, she built a place where everyone could share their podcasts with each other, and they could like each of their podcasts and consume that within that community. So I don't think there's anything as too early, because it's just a way to shape and augment intellect. And I think the way it's applied is changes over the years, depending on which age group you are. And that makes it very exciting for kids to keep doing this, even though it's not directly connected to school marks.
Sure, yeah. So as we hear you, it is never too early to learn coding, really. All you need is a certain passion and grit to start off. And if you have an idea, I think coding can just put it there for everyone to play with, deal with, and just have it there. So teaching kids coding is something that can be done as early as preschool, as we hear. It's never too early to start to learn to code. Coming to our parent, Miss Sima Dubey Pandey, ma'am, being a parent to a Gen Z student who is learning coding, how did your child first show her inclination towards coding? I'm really keen to know that, and for the interest of students who are here and who feel intimidated. So it would be really interesting to know that what was the alluring factor that made her do so, and what was your role that you played?
Okay, so good afternoon to all. So I was just listening to all our panelists. This is the other side. We have software companies with good plan. We have NEP, which supports coding and other kind of STEM education. We have teachers who are ready to teach. But how does it come to the other end, to the students, to the child? I'll just tell you like that. So my child started this learning coding when she was in third standard. And how did it happen? So we all know this generation kids are very comfortable with technology. I mean, in other countries, they might be more advanced, but here in India also, by second standard, third standard, they're already very well versed with all the basic aspects of computers, PowerPoint presentations, making videos, inserting things, etc., etc. So in her case, her teacher just suggested her name for one of the competitions, which was a PowerPoint competition, PowerPoint presentation. And she was like, I know this. I can do it. She gave her name, very super enthusiastic child, like most of her age kids would be. And then this topic was about coding, the pros and cons of coding for a young age learners like her. And that was the first time this word coding came to her vocabulary. And it was like, what is this, mama? How do we see coding? So, as we have all discussed, I also told her, see, you know what is the input device, what is software, hardware. So, the language by which you put things to your computer's mind and the way it responds, that is coding, fine. So, now what should be the next step? I said, this now that you've given your name for a particular competition, you do your research work. Try to find out what is coding. And in the process, this competition, this initiative by her school, she's from AFS Golden Jubilee. So this initiative from her school and her teachers, what was the actual first exposure? Now that is, she is in fifth standard now. This was around 1.5 years back, around 2 years back. From there, that was just the beginning, and she developed interest for coding. Then we have a lot of companies who are selling a lot of modules. They have free classes that they give, demo classes, and they're doing good. Like we took up a demo class with one of the brands, and then they gave very good personalized attention, one-to-one assessment, SWOT analysis. Then the thing that was being said by Mr. Sahil, that the child can see something happening. Logic development is happening in a lot of subjects. That's very good. But here the child is able to, a small little child after one class or two class sees something happening. It's a big encouragement for the child. So these kind of things actually started building up in her mind. Then kids, they have this thing that I'm learning something, more than my other friends. So they start talking, and then it takes up, it starts creating like a wave. And now most of her friends are doing it, so they really enjoy. Now, okay, that was how it began. Now I would like to tell that how is it, what are the changes that I see in my child. Earlier also, see, screen time, as Sir Dr. Nichols was saying, screen time is definitely a major concern for all of us. But the thing is that screen time is any which way is there to stay. Now, the thing is whether with that screen time, they're just using an app which has been developed by somebody and sold to them, or they're trying to do something which is more creative, which requires them to put some more data together, some more thinking, challenges their intellect. Sometimes they fail, of course. Sometimes they gain, but yeah, that is something which is really nice to see. Your child has become more systematic and is enjoying the process. So I will say school and her teacher were the agent who actually brought this term to her life, and now she's enjoying it.
Thank you. Extremely. And I hope principals and parents who are watching us feel encouraged to give this priceless gift of coding to all school children, and at this young age, kids are up for any challenge and they have solutions for everything, so this is just the right age for them to, take it up. Ms. Surbhi Bhardwaj, coming to you. We understand coding is such an important language for the new generation and is being pegged as a must-know skill by all students, as has also been established now. As the computer teacher of a leading school, do you think parents and students are as well informed and equally enthusiastic about the importance of learning coding?
Well, speaking of my students and their parents, I can surely say that they are very aware and are into what rocks the world presently and into the future, where learning is dependent on a pedagogical approaches that we teach in our class. So students are so much into technology that there is nothing that misses their attention. In fact, sometimes they know more and before us, because look at the role that technology is playing in the present times. Even those who are not very tech savvy, they learn more. I can surely say that students are totally there and fortunately making very good futuristic choices. So I'm quite pleased with the students' attitude towards coding. They are mapping their way into this world for the future and making me really feel proud, because we have a lot of students who are doing so well. But as far as parents are concerned, they are aware, know parts of the coding story, but they really don't understand the why and the how of it. So many parents contact me and ask me about the basic concerns. They need guidance and also a little hand holding, to walk through the process. So as a computer teacher, my job is to simplify the process for them. I must say that the current scenario looks very promising. And all the computer and the mobile applications that we are using and talking about, as Mr. Sahil mentioned, it's all because of the programming languages, the coding that we are doing. So artificial intelligence, it's the new kid in the block. This field is developing at a very constantly increasing scale. So I'm pretty much, every day there is something new which is developed. I personally teach AR and oh sorry. Yeah, I personally teach AR and VR in my class. So I feel like we provide a very strong foundation basically of cognitive skills to young students to become effective in their learning and in their life and the career. We don't need crores of coders. Basically, when we talk about coding, we are only mentioning programming, but it is not so. At school level, we are teaching coding to enhance their cognitive skills, critical thinking, problem solving, math skills, strategic thinking, and a lot of logic building. Okay, so to do so, we need a lot of different apps and programs, that every child is different and we need to cater to all the students. Okay, so we use various methods to teach children with, say, blocks, say Minecraft, which is very much nowadays students are playing this game, which has an educational version, then Scratch, Logo, then Python, then we use MIT App Inventor to teach them, and there are many more. So as Supriti ma'am said, that NLP is a holistic development of the future generation. So I totally agree with it. The pandemic has been very unfortunate, but it has suddenly made very non-tech people very much aware of the technological skills. So nowadays, parents really talk about in terms of the proper language and the coding, and they are very much aware of it because they themselves have upgraded themselves. And then I would just want to say and conclude basically that there are little gaps between what it is and what it should be, but I'm sure that we have a brighter future. We are going towards it. So I would just in end want to quote Mr. Malcolm, like, education is our passport to the future, which I also tell my children, for tomorrow belongs to the people who prepare for it today. So we need a lot of coders, and we need coders to build up the process, understanding different skills, so that in future they are able to do teamwork and associate and develop excellent, I say, excellent stuff or apps for the people. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It's heartening to hear that. And we cheer for all the front runners and the ones who are just about making the decision to learn this invaluable skill. And I think we must do some counseling for parents if there is any gap and they kind of don't understand much. I have a question there for Dr. Nicholas that's coming up ahead on what they've been doing for parents such as these. But before that, Sahil, I'll come to you. Coding is just for a few students who are academically ahead is a myth that I feel and I read in places. Coding is hard and intimidating. Could you help us debunk these few myths that could help parents and students, students take their decisions and take the right course of action?
Yeah, I think it's like building a skyscraper. When you look at it, when you look at the end product, it can seem intimidating project, right, that was undergone. But in order to build that skyscraper, there are many small steps which are taken, and if you break it down into small steps, it becomes a very fulfilling journey, right, which is easy to accomplish. So, right, if you are using the right, if you have the right learning partners, the right teacher with the right curriculum and platform helping them, it can be made very simple, where you start with very, very basic activities, right, where you just learn how to, let's say, drag and drop, different things on the screen. And then once you have learned how to do that, it goes more into actually like building, say, a website, and then it goes more into an app, and then you can go into game development and AI, and over time build the skyscraper one floor at a time. So I think if you have the right learning partner, they will essentially ensure your child builds one block at a time, and ultimately the end product.
Sure. And whether you want to make a lot of money or want to change the world, I think coding is very empowering skill to learn for one
So
and all.
I think it's more than that, right? So it actually, what we found is that it has an immediate benefit in schoolwork. You become better in math, you become better in science, because ultimately it's teaching you to think in a more logical manner, which is what you need. You need that structured thinking when thinking about any sort of mathematical problem, and also in science, right? So it has an immediate benefit in school, which is something that we've actually seen in a big way, right? So sure, in the midterm and long term, it can help you get a better job and more money and the good
Yeah.
life, all of that. But the short term benefits are like very easy and fast to see as well.
Yeah, that's true. And these are all skills that kids learn from, from the time they preschool, so, and if coding can help them develop these skills, I think nothing like it, so you learn both coding as well as these life skills. So yeah, amazing. The next question is again to you, Sahil. We have curious parents and students and audience who would want to know about the future prospects. I'm getting these questions. Future prospects of coding. What really are the different career opportunities if you take up coding as a career option? Is there enough scope in India, or students tend to consider moving abroad? And is it only technology where you tend to get you need to drift to, or is there any industry now today has scope for students who've learned coding?
So honestly, there's a famous saying that software is eating up the world, and what that means is that every industry is being disrupted with the use of technology, right? So anybody who knows how to use technology can have an impact in any industry. Whether you want to get into medicine, you want to get into engineering, you want to get into hospitality, right? It doesn't matter. You want to get into sports, right? You are seeing that the way people perform is being improved with technology. If you talk to most cricketers or sports people right now, they'll tell you, about all the new, technical innovation that's helping them perform in a bigger, better manner. So learning to code is not just about, becoming a programmer in the
Yeah,
future and opening up that gateway. It can actually be used as an unfair advantage to help you in any profession, because all professions need to use software, right, in order to improve and get better. So it is a necessary life skill at the moment, and it's not just about something to learn in order to become a programmer in the future and work in either Bangalore or Silicon Valley or anything like that.
that's true. And I agree, with digitization of almost every industry, business models have changed at a pace that was never even imagined in the human industry. And to add to it, the last 18 months of pandemic, there has been an incredible technological transformation we have all witnessed. So the number of jobs that require coding skills will grow exponentially is something that I was reading up, a couple of days back. And to all the parents, again, this is again an article that I was reading. 2/3 of coding jobs are coming from outside the tech industry, tech sector. And being able to code in the 21st century opens a floodgate of opportunities across various sectors. So I think that's something that's important to note as well. Coming to you, Dr. Nicholas, I am taking this up from what Surbhi ma'am had to say, that there is some kind of gap of understanding that she feels while students are keen, there are parents who hard to understand, and maybe not everybody is on board. So with online classes on for more than a year, I want to know, how have you taken up coding in your school, and how has the student and parent response been to it? Have you been effectively been able to bridge this gap between the parent student understanding of coding and the importance of it?
Yes, currently we are living in a cyber world, and coding is said to be oxygen of the cyber. Coding is also emerging as one of the 21st century literacy skills. And COVID-19 pandemic has become a blessing in disguise for driving this 21st century skill. Since April 2020, schools have been imparting digital aided education. Unlike in the offline schooling, online classes cannot be held for long hours and continuously. Hence, to keep the students engaged and updated with the latest skills, fun and frolic activities like coding have been introduced. To create interest in coding among students and to drive parents' attention, various competitions on coding are organized for students. To promote these competitions, various webinars are conducted. Even Hindustan Times has conducted their webinar for Codathon competition and other courses of new age skill. Our children have been participating in Codathon competition for last few years. Coding is also introduced as a skill subject in CBSE schools from grade 6 onwards, which is optional. We have a good number of parents working in IT sector. Many of the children have been learning coding at a very early age. I also learned from our teachers that many children are learning coding online on their own. And many of these courses are free. The disadvantage in these free courses is there is no human intervention to give calculated feedback at regular intervals unless someone at home or someone else guides them. What I appreciate that many children are exploring such new avenues on their own. And as such, many of the children also through various organizations, they are learning this coding, though not through the skill subject. Most of the schools are not opted for that skill subject in coding, but children as such, they go for free courses or various courses are organized by various organizations.
Yes.
And that way, I think many of the children are taking up coding and parents are also encouraging this literacy. In the meantime, about all this, I would like to say, whatever may be learning coding or all these new age skills, we should not forget our own identity. We should retain our identity and retain all our core values along with these new age skills.
Sure. Thank you, sir. I think encouraging students to take these courses up will definitely spark interest in coding for students. This is because they will finally get to use the ideas that sit at the back of their heads and they'll put them to life. I guess coding is also like soccer or tennis or any other game, because in sports also, if you make mistakes, you get to fix it, and likewise here also, and then move on and see the end product and be happy about it. Coming to you, Ms. Chauhan, as you're aware, HT has its own very well structured coding program in HT Codathon. In the first year, which was last year, we got participation from nearly 65,000 students across the country. Strangely, we witnessed that participation rate was higher in boys than in girls. What might be the reason behind this, and how do you promote coding amongst girls in your schools? It'll be nice to hear that, and the principals who are also here on this forum watching this, it'll be good insight for them. I think there is a connectivity problem. Can you hear us, ma'am? Ms. Chauhan?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think how I'd like to answer this would be, and it's just my version of the response, that probably a social structure is such that it hasn't encouraged very many girls to take up coding as a way forward. Why I say this when I talk about social structure is, for some reason over the years, there's certain job profiles or there's certain areas which are very clearly demarcated as boys and girls. For that matter, even colors like blue is for boys and pink is for girls, which I still wonder why is that so? It doesn't have any gender. So I owe it to that completely. That's my version. And how I encourage my girls, and this is also the same way I encourage our set of parents who tell me that we don't want our children, and this is boys and girls mix, we don't want our children to become computer engineer. We have certain paths lined up for them, and this is what they should be doing. What will they do learning coding at this early age if we try and get them on board the same track? So my response, or how I encourage them to do, is that forget about coding. Focus. This is what I tell my girls. Focus on why should boys have all the fun? What is it so fun that they all are going into it and you aren't? So forget about coding and thinking of it as a computer or as a subject that you know be trying at. Just take it up for the fun fact of it. Take it up for the soft skills that it will build in you. Forget about the technical aspect of it. It is going to build focus, it is going to build resilience, it is going to build creativity, it is going to build communication skills, it is going to build adaptability skills, logical skills. Focus on all these skills and just go in for it. And if in the process of uh, doing this you end up liking coding, nothing like it. But go in for the fun factor of it, and go in for so much of other skills that it has to offer other than coding as such. Again, if I may just give you a small example, uh, this is what I tell again to my parent and my girls, that wouldn't it be nice if you could communicate better than anybody else in a room full of children or in a room full of strangers? Because coding actually teaches you the right syntax or the right structure of a sentence, because that's exactly what you do when you're trying to feed in certain commands into the computer to respond to you. So look at how concise your language becomes. Look at how crisp and clear you bring in your expression. If a computer can understand, imagine what it can do to the world, the real world. So it is not just going to help you in the interpersonal skills within the classroom or the world that you interact in, but also in your life in future. So that's my way of bringing in that little fun element into telling my girls or inspiring my girls and my set of parents who are still not on board with us. So this is what I tell them, that take up coding as something that builds so many other skills apart from the computational thinking skills and the computer literacy, digital literacy skills.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean,
I'll
I
add
love that.
Rupali,
Sorry,
I'll
go ahead.
add a fun fact to what Miss Chauhan said, right? So, there's research out there that 43% of all STEM graduates are women, right? But if you look at STEM jobs, the number of the women in STEM jobs is just 14%. So there's a huge drop from STEM graduates to women in the workforce, and most companies, we're, like us and most others, we are looking for a balanced workforce. So there's this huge opportunity, for girls who pick up, like, who are STEM graduates, to actually take up these jobs going forward, right? And like, if more and more girls start to pick that as an option, it'll actually help all the companies, and society as a whole do much better.
Absolutely, I agree
Absolutely.
with
Absolutely, and first, Miss Chauhan, I love that fun fact of why should boys have all the fun. Of course, there is so much fun in learning coding.
you.
And
Absolutely.
I think parents also here need to know what Sahil just said, that, it's only 14% girls in STEM jobs. So there is a huge opportunity there. And of course, again, Sahil did highlight earlier itself as well that coding is not important only. You need not know coding only if you were to get into a tech job. Anywhere you want to be in any field today, you got to know coding. It's as important now. So thank you all. Coming to you, Miss Sima Dubey. There are many courses on coding available in the market. Uh, Could you throw some light on what should students and parents consider when opting for a course for their child? If you have any inputs on that.
Okay. So as a parent, you know what, coding or any kind of learning, because this is being promoted more like end oriented, which I spoke as well. So any course, there are a lot of courses available. The course should be such that it can develop interest, because this is new. Whatever said and done, this is new. Like, I'll take an example. When you start teaching any language, say English, Hindi, any kind of thing to a child, you don't teach with the intention that you learn English and tomorrow you're going to become Rabindranath Tagore. It's not necessary. You just want the child to understand that learning this language is just going to make him or her more empowered. You know, it's a skill that is basic, which is necessary. So there are a lot of courses. Like my child, she started on with HTML, which is definitely not a functional, but only a structural level coding. Then there are courses like Scratch, Python, Java, C++, Ruby. There are a lot of them, but my child started with HTML and then she moved to Scratch. But she has developed some games on that and participated in few competitions. So whatever course or whatever coding they take up, if that can help build interest and love for it, and can cater to the personalized, you know, individual differences, because as a parent, I'm telling you, it takes some time for them to catch up as a new skill, and once they catch up with it, then sky is the limit. They are very creative, they have a lot of skills within themselves. So we just need to ensure that the initial start is fun. Initial start is more of developing love for it, and it happened with a lot of courses available. I told you my experience.
Sure. So, could I just have the video that we wanted to show? There was a parent who actually, incidentally, when she saw the ad of coding, she sent us a video. We would like to play out that video.
I am Charu Mehrotra. I am Charu Mehrotra and a teacher for over 2 decades. Till a couple of years back, I was totally alien to the concept of coding. Until my daughter, who's now in class 12, showed keen interest in learning it. I was apprehensive at first because honestly I had no idea about what it was and was thus unaware of its benefits. But when my daughter kept pestering me to enroll her into some short-term coding course, I did my own little research about it. As I entered the world of coding, I was appalled. Yes, of course, coding is the future because it opens up lots of job opportunities. But it is much more than that. It is a life skill from which not everyone, not only the child, benefits. Coding helps you to develop a sense of appreciation of how things work. It helps you to take on to challenges with resilience. It expands your creative horizons and obviously have fun with maths. Undoubtedly, enrolling my child into a coding course was one of the best decisions I ever took. In fact, I'm so impressed with it that I try to talk each and every child I come across to take on to coding. I even gifted my nephew a subscription of the coding course on his birthday and he really loved it. In fact, I would urge all parents and friends to gift this meaningful gift of learning through a coding course to every student.
Thank you. That was lovely. I think we're running out of time. I will quickly have one or two. In fact, before I have the next question, I don't want to miss out on this child video that we also got. So if we could play the video of Keshav, that will be really nice to see. And then we'll have time for one question.
Hi, I'm Keshav Mohta. I'm a grade 9 student from Dhirubhai Ambani International School. I've learned that coding is a life skill, and HT Codathon helped me build vital skills for coding. Through coding, I was able to develop a website, My Pen My Friend, which has now been running for a year. The aim of the platform was to combine my love for writing and coding. We've been in operation for a year and published articles, poems, and stories sent to us by students of grades 5 to 12. So this is our website. You can see some of the latest articles we have published. We have a huge variety of content that you can browse through. Everything on the platform is written entirely by students. Till date, we have published over 650 articles and we have 140 plus authors. One of the biggest challenges we face is getting good quality articles. And to do this, we've partnered with various schools and organizations. We're soon launching a competition in collaboration with Riverside School in Ahmedabad. We've also worked with the International School of Bangalore. With Learners PU College based in Mysore, we conducted essay writing competitions for their students. So if this is something that interests you, head over to mypenmyfriend.com. And for any questions, email contact@mypenmyfriend.com and you can send in your work to articles@mypenmyfriend.com to share it with the rest of the world. All of this would not have been possible without coding. Coding will become as ubiquitous as reading and writing, and by getting a head start here, students can tremendously benefit. Thank you.
Thanks, Keshav. That was really inspiring. And I think the parent before also had a very good point to make that, if we have to gift a child something, I think the gift of coding is something that we can possibly either guide them or present them. Yeah. So we have just time for one more question, and I would address it to Sahil. I am getting a question. It says, I'm an 11-year-old Ashwin Acharya and a grade 6 student. After seeing this discussion, I'm highly inspired to take up coding. Where do I start? How do I decide which language to learn? And what would be your final word before we finish this, for this audience who's been attending this session?
Yeah. So I think, there is a format of learning coding where, as Miss Dubey said, you start with HTML and then that's the first building block and then you build on top of that. What's more important is to find the right guide and the right classroom, right? And that guide knows the playbook in order to get you up to speed and will mentor you and help you progress. And what's important is to get the right guide and the right classroom, because in order to keep learning, the social element is important. So you should do what we found is that a group class is much better than one-on-one, where you have another 3-4 other students. So it's a more fun experience, because like learning anything, you'll have days, you'll have your ups and downs, but the social element will keep you at it and you'll keep progressing. So I think it's more about just finding the right teacher and the right classroom, and the rest will fall in place as they'll guide you through the entire program to learn coding, and so you can start developing your own apps and websites and other cool things.
Sure. Thanks. Thank you so much, Sahil. Ashwin, I hope you got your answer. I have a few more questions, but my tech team tells me there is a hard stop. So I'm afraid we just have this much time for this wonderful discussion today. If you want to give your child something enjoyable to do in the field of education, and such that it will also help them learn life skills of confidence, creativity, and critical thinking, learning to code is the perfect gift to give. A child who learns how to code will have the advantage in life, with more employment opportunities available to them in future, no matter which industry they decide to enter, whether it be in technology sector, finance, healthcare, retail, whatever be it. This is an important reason why coding should be taught in schools as well. And as we just learned, coding can be both easy and fun. You don't need to be a genius to learn coding, you need to be determined. So, students, we do hope we have been able to inspire you to enroll for coding today in order to be technologically fluent professionals tomorrow. Thank you all for sparing time to join us today on this very important topic of discussion. Stay safe, and thank you so much.